So WWE did a 24 on Goldberg and his return to the WWE, which happened last year, around about 13 months ago. He returned in Denver, Colorado on Monday Night Raw, and this is WWE's 24 documentary about Goldberg. It's a little bit interesting. I think they released this to coincide with, I think, close to the 1 year anniversary when he beat Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series last year when he destroyed Brock in a squash match. And of course, his run would be extended and it would go on to WrestleMania when he would lose to Brock and lose the WWE Universal title to Brock. So Goldberg, this is going to be a documentary about his return. It's been a while since he was back, but I think it was done to coincide with the anniversary. And plus, I think they've already done a lot of documentaries that on Kurt Angle and Finn Balor, so they had to release those. But I'm looking forward to this. W24s are almost always really good. I enjoy virtually all of them. This is, I think, the final episode of season 3. So I think every season starts at WrestleMania. I think the next episode will be WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. They usually release those in January, so this is I guess the season finale episode. So the documentary starts at WrestleMania 33, then they go to the interview we did with the coach on the WWE ESPN show, which is now canceled, about him returning. Now they're going, I think, to WCW. I don't know, they did a quick recap. I don't know if they're going to talk about his WCW run as much, but they went straight to WWE, and they made it like it was successful, man. That his first one in WWE was fucking horrible. Now I guess they're back to when he first returned. So this is his return in Denver, and his son's meeting all the WWE guys. They show him meeting JBL, meeting Enzo, meeting Bailey. So now they're talking about the problems he had in backstage, and I like how they pretty much admit like he had problems. He didn't know anyone when he came back, and then he had the guys he knew he didn't like. He had problems with Triple H. Obviously, he had problems with Jericho. That's well documented. He got to the fight in WCW, and then they're also talking about how in his first run he was separated from the whole roster. He didn't really want to interact with anyone. He came off as a prima donna. He was not liked, and there was the politics. And I think they're actually being honest with it. And I guess they're now talking about the night he left, the infamous night, which was just awful at WrestleMania 20 and that horrific match with Brock Lesnar. So yeah, they're really talking about some of the heat, and they also talked about I remember there was a story about a few years ago before he came back that the WWE had they reached him when I think they had tried to bring him back, but it fell through. So now they show him meeting with Vince McMahon and them, talking about stuff. And Vince comes off a lot likable in these 24 documentaries. So now they're showing him when he first came out on Raw in Denver, Colorado, in the Pepsi Center. So it's really documentary is getting good. It's the Denver and him celebrating with his family. His wife's talking a lot on the documentary. I remember him going through the crowd, picking up various kids, hugging kids, kissing babies, getting very, he was very over that night for sure. So, again, now, they're showing, his personal life, being with his wife and his son. And you can tell me, this guy, he keeps saying, it's not for me, it's not for me, it's for my son, it's for my wife. At some point, it has to be something he has to like about it. It's like he's saying, I don't care about this. I'm doing this for my wife and my son. This means nothing to me. I think that kind of resonated negatively with the fans. I think that's why, I don't know if that was the reason, but part of it just like, the guy doesn't want to be there. And I think that's why they turned on him at the end of his run. But again, they show him talking to, I think, Carl or Luke Gallows about working there. And, he's back on the Halloween edition of Raw before Survivor Series. So they're showing him just completely killing himself to get in shape. He's doing heavy training, putting on weight. The problem is he's a 50-year-old guy and he has to look like Goldberg, and he's Bill Goldberg. He has to look like WCW Goldberg. He's going to have to kill himself, and he's doing Muay Thai training. Kickboxing training. He is killing himself, and the problem is, he says, when he first put his ring gear on, he completely forgot everything, and I think that he keeps referring to the fact that he forgot everything, and he has to kill himself to look like Goldberg. He only has a short period of time to do it, so. You can tell, I guess that's why he's so miserable. It's weird. It's just like he's talking. I'm so miserable. It's like, I'm miserable. I don't want to be here. I hate wrestling. But he's just miserable what he's doing to himself when he's a 50-year-old guy. This is so they're showing Goldberg Okay, so it was interesting on Raw. I think when they did that big security lineup, he says he's tore something in his arm. He tore his rotator cuff. I don't know if he really tore it, but it felt like it. That's what he said. He said he felt like he tore his rotator cuff. Now he's doing the PR. He's doing ESPN. And it's interesting. Almost halfway through this documentary, it's still at Survivor Series. I wonder if they did this. This whole Goldberg thing was supposed to be just Survivor Series. I wonder if this whole thing was just done to shoot it for Survivor Series. And I know they're going to talk about WrestleMania because they showed it at the beginning, but it really makes you know, like, this whole thing was supposed to be for Survivor Series, no WrestleMania. So now they're in Toronto, and they're really hyping up the match at Brock Lesnar. They're showing him in Toronto. The Survivor Series show last year, Brock versus Goldberg. Yeah, that was definitely a cool show. It's a cool moment. I was shocked when I saw it. I was a little like, really? But I know I thought about it. It was actually really cool when he squashed Brock in that match. So he got a huge pop at that show, and he celebrates with his kid in the ring and at Survivor Series. So now they're saying, you can tell this whole 24 documentary was all shot just for Survivor Series, but then, of course, it became so successful as they ended up extending it through up to WrestleMania. So now they're going to Fastlane when he squashed Kevin Owens. I think this is where the fans start to turn on him because they were pissed off they'd have him squash a very popular heel, and Kevin Owens, I think he got some heat for that. So now we're getting to the last part, which is WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. So they show Goldberg talking to the Undertaker. This was Undertaker's, I don't know if it's his last WrestleMania, but it certainly seemed like it was going to be his last WrestleMania. They were talking about it, and, it was kind of cool seeing Undertaker interact with people outside of wrestling. I'd like to see a WWE 24 just on the Undertaker and him being a locker room leader. But anyway, now they're showing him talk to Vince. So they're really hyping up how he wants to, fix the wrong that was, right the wrong that was WrestleMania 20 with WrestleMania 33. And they definitely had a really good match that, is light years better than their WrestleMania 20 match. So during the match with Brock, you can really tell that was a very successful program they did. I think with Goldberg, they handled his return really well, and I think it was a lot better than the way they handled, let's say when Sting first came in, I thought it was botched. 2 years later, they had a similar... Or actually, they've had several big returns every year at WrestleMania the last few years. He had Sting's big return, he had Shane McMahon's big return, or Sting's debut, actually. And he had Shane's big return, I thought was a success. And then Goldberg's, I thought they handled really well. His return was just awesome. And I thought they did a great storyline, even though the fans turned on him at the end. But I thought the way they handled everything, it really worked. Not to go back to the Sting, when he was the other big WWE star, that whole, his run in the WWE I thought was a big flop. Could have been so much better, but match with Brock was really good, and I thought they had a really good match. It's like if you ever seen like a heavyweight boxing fight or a heavyweight MMA fight, it's a 5-minute slugfest. They drop each other a whole bunch of times. Eventually, the fight gets stopped. That's how it kind of was. That's how they kind of made the match. So they're really talking. As I said, everyone in the back said it was a great end to a really good story for, the way they booked the whole storyline with Goldberg's return. So now they're going Raw the next. I never watched this, but I heard about it. I heard that the fans were kind of booing, and he got them to cheer, and he broke the fourth wall. This was after the show, so this was, I think, exclusively for this documentary. So the documentary ends with him, it's all about his kid, it's really a good story about a father wanting to show his kid, this great experience, this great memory, and it's actually a really, really good story. So I thought the documentary was really good. I do think, documentary, it felt like it wasn't... Compared to the other documentaries, I didn't feel like they put as much into it as I thought some of the other documentaries. Not necessarily a knock on Goldberg. I just felt like this was all meant to be Survivor Series, and they added an extra 15 minutes because it got extended. But I thought it was a really good story, and it was short. It wasn't as long as the other ones, but it was a short story. But it was really, really good, and I thought this was another really good documentary for WWE. I like how I think Paul Heyman said it best. How it ended when his final show was on Raw not even at Raw, after the show was over, he went into the arena as Goldberg, and he left as Bill. So I thought it was a good documentary, and I guess, he kind of leaves the door open, but I think this is the end for Goldberg. I don't believe we'll see him, and I thought this was a really good way to go out for Goldberg.